Sorry, we were just talking. This is B.E. Smith. He's a good friend of mine. I visited his garden, so everybody knows who he is. No introduction necessary. All I can say is I'm really pleased to have visited his gardens many times in Trinity County. One of the best growers in Northern California, and one of the freest thinkers in America. So everyone is here once again. B.E. Smith, everybody.
Thank you very much. One of my highlights in my career is meeting mountains. I get to spend some time with him next week in New York, his old stomping grounds. We got a mutual friend who's getting married, and so we both want to attend. Thank you for coming and listening to me. I got to warm up to you first because I'm a shy person, but once I get warmed up, then you can't shut me up. So hopefully, I want to talk to you something today that I'm willing to bet that not very many people in here have heard what you're going to hear today. And I hope that you put some research into it. I'm going to give you a lot of information. I spent almost 40 years of my life searching for freedoms that I knew that we had. And it's been a long road. And so what I want to share with you today, I really hope that you continue with it because we're going to lose it if we don't keep it this generation. This is the last generation. And if we don't get back on track and control the situation, we're going to lose our freedoms. But right now, we still hold on. And some of you might have seen me on the TV show. That's not my gig in life. My gig in life is trying to teach my fellow Americans about their liberties. I don't charge anything to do it. I give classes all the time. I'm a firm believer that you can't sell freedom. You got to give it away. And so I'm going to have to go backwards and sometimes tell you what I did. And I'm not doing this as an ego trip. Hindsight's the best teaching experience. Most of my learning has been from hindsight. And it started a long time ago when I got out of the service back in Vietnam, 1969. And it was a different America when I came home. And when I came home, it hurt when your fellow Americans spit on you and call you baby killers. And that burnt my butt and shamed me. So I started working on how to get out of that system. And I succeeded in walking away from that system. And then I had to learn how to keep that system from bringing me back inside where I didn't want nothing to do with. And so I succeeded in that. And I did it by procedures, law procedures at first. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew how to beat them, but I didn't know how I did it. So I had to learn almost everything on my own from then on because, like I said, the knowledge isn't out there. It's here in the freedom documents that we have, starting back through the Magna Carta and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. And if we learn how to control this Republican form of government, we can save it. But we're not going to save it unless we control it. And we can control it because, you know what? You're human beings and the government is fiction. And control fiction. They're nothing but a corporation. All governments are corporations. So I learned how to beat the system by procedures at first, and it was a long fight. I joined the movement, the Patriot movement, whatever kind of movement you wanted to call it. And I started getting my butt beat up instantly because you had to go into courtroom not knowing law, and they would just beat you up. And so I said, I can't do this no more, so I left the Patriot movement, and then I started learning the law from the very beginning, because I found out that the freedom documents that our founding fathers made for us is kind of like a puzzle. If you know all the pieces and put them in the right spots, it's the best type of government known to man. But if you don't know how to work it, and it's easy to do, it's easy. Our education back in the day when they won the war on independence, it wasn't very high. There was a lot of smart people, don't get me wrong, but there was a whole lot of dumb people. And so the founding fathers had to make it very simple, and they did. And they laid it out to where every generation can see how to do it. And over the years, we got dumbed down in this country. Today, we believe that we're living in a democracy. That democracy is the most vile type of government ever invented by man, by the way. That means that 50% plus one person can tell you how to live your life. And I don't want to do that because I was born free and independent. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. That's what most of your state constitutions read also. The state constitution reads, all people are by nature free and independent and have unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And so when I got out of the service and I got out of the system, because I refused to pay federal income taxes, because I had my wife write a letter to the Franchise Tax Board here in California, and I was a timber faller. I was making damn good money. And but I didn't like the taxes that I paid, because when my wife received the letter back, and the question that we asked the state of California Franchise Tax Board was, does any part of my taxes fund public abortions? So I had to hang up on being called a baby coat. So when they wrote back, they said, yes, a certain percentage goes to fund public abortion. And that's when I got out of the system. I don't care what you do with private abortion. I don't care. You're paying for it. In a public abortion, I'm paying for it. I won't do it. And I haven't paid taxes since 1978. If the IRS had asked me how I make a living, I'll say, fine, thank you. But over the years, like I said, I learned procedures first, how to beat the system, and that was easy. I started trolling for cops in 1992 when I first beat them. I rode a motorcycle with no helmet in Weaverville, and trolling for cops. It took me about half an hour to make them pull me over, because he knew something was going on, because I kept going through town, back and forth. Finally, he pulled me over, and that's when it started, and I wouldn't identify myself. They didn't beat me up. They wasn't going to take me to jail, but I kind of told them what the law said. So they took me to the magistrate, and the magistrate, when I was taken before a magistrate, he didn't know what to do. actually didn't know what to do. So he ordered me back in 2 weeks, and I left. But I never went back, anything ever happened to me, because you have to sign a promise to appear for them to get jurisdiction over you. And I knew they didn't have no jurisdiction. I didn't give no jurisdiction. So all it was what that stuff that comes out of the south end of the northbound pole. BS. And so when I meet people in Trinity County, that's where I live in Trinity County, up in the mountains, dead in the canyon. There's 5 times as many people in this room that lives in my canyon. And it's a beautiful place to live. We don't never see cops. I don't know if I've seen a cop in the last 10 years. We used to. We used to get a lot of cops. That's when the war on drugs started way back when. Denny was the first place they hit, by the way. And they beat us up. But when I started patrolling for cops in Redding, California, I did it with a dirt bike with no helmet. And I got pulled over, and I beat them. Because there's procedures that they have to do, and if you don't do if you don't do a certain thing, that forces them to do a certain thing. And so that's how you beat them. Because when they would say, sign the ticket, I would say, no, take me to a magistrate. Well, when I say take me to a magistrate, he has to take me to a magistrate immediately now if it's a vehicle code violation. If it's a criminal code, they got 48 hours. But on a vehicle code violation, they have to take you immediately to the magistrate. And that's because they have to acquire jurisdiction before they can punish you. Remember, you're born free and independent. You're driving up and down the road minding your own business. And then a cop pulls you over and tries to write you a ticket. If you sign that ticket, you waive your right to your freedom of the writ of habeas corpus. And the ball game's over. But if you don't sign a ticket, then that forces the officer to do a certain thing, and that is to take you before a magistrate. And when you get to the magistrate, his job is to put the witness or put the victim on the witness stand to create a complaint so that they may have jurisdiction to prosecute you. If there's no victim, you can walk out there a free person and you win. If they throw you in jail without a victim, you can sue them and win. It has to be a victim involved before an action can be created. And an action is only created by injury to the person, injury to the property, or a violation of a contract. Without one of those present, there can be no action created. Remember, I said government is a corporation. Okay? Now, how does that work? Like I said, the state constitution and the Declaration of Independence says that you're born free and independent. Okay? Free and independent. Now, if you decide to work for the government, then you take an oath of office or you sign a contract to work for the government. Now, when you go from the private sector, you're free and independent, you're in the private sector. And when you're under contract with the public, you're in the public sector. And you have to obey their laws. You're agreed to go and work for the government. So therefore, you're under contract law. Just like going to work for Microsoft. You got to obey the in-house rules. They're a corporation just like we are, or our government is. And so everything that government has to do, it has to be written down on a piece of paper. Remember, they're fiction. And the only way that you can enter with them is you have to sign a contract. Because remember, you're born free and independent. That can't be taken away from you unless you waive that right. It has to be you. They can't, the government can't take no rights away from you. All they can do is accept your waiver. And that's what we do in this country. We waive our rights. The Second Amendment issue, right? The government has a right to regulate and control, make regulations, make law on subjects. Okay? Subject is an officer of the law. Or he might be anyone that carries a gun while he's working for the public sector. Well, he has to have laws. They have to have laws controlling his privilege of carrying that gun while he's on duty. And so that's why all these laws are passed, is for the subject, not for the free and independent person. You have to sign a contract to become a subject. Now, on the other hand, the government has no right to interfere with your arms. Second Amendment, anyone can read the Second Amendment and understand that. But it's us that don't understand that we're in the private sector and the law doesn't pertain to us. We've been told that you have to obey the law. That's not true. That's not true. They're lying to you. They might not be doing it with criminal intent, but remember, folks, everyone believes that we work in a democracy, and we don't. We have a Republican form of government. Article 4, Section 4, Federal Constitution guarantees us a Republican form of government. A republic, if you break the word down, R-E is Latin for redo, reorder, remove, retake. You know, there's hundreds of them. And then public means publican, came from the word publican, which is Greek, tax collector, which is public. So why we're a republic, and Ben Franklin said we was a unique republic, and he's telling the truth. He was. So what a republic is you have the right as a free person to go into the public sector for a benefit or for work for them, and then when your job's over or your benefit is collected, you remove yourself back into the private sector, and you become the king of your castle again. But while you're under contract, you're a subject. And so people misinterpret how that works, and I tell you, when I found out that, when I first did the first take me to the magistrate, there was a young lady working as a court clerk, and she just retired about 5 years ago. And I met her at a campaign, a sheriff campaign one night, and she said, "B.E., remember when you first did take me to the magistrate back in '92? And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I was in the courtroom." I said, I remember you. And she said, "You know what? No one in that courtroom knew what you was doing." And I said, "Yeah, I knew I was in trouble." They didn't know what they was doing. They just worked 5 days a week, get their pay, and take weekends off. And so it's been an educational process to the government as well as to the people. And when I said earlier that the Founding Fathers left us the knowledge through the freedom documents to show us what's going on, what they thought about, if you go back to the Declaration of Independence, and it says, "It is self-evident that all men are created equal and have certain unalienable rights, among these of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness." The next sentence says, "To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men." So government was instituted, created, just for the purpose of your unalienable rights. And so when it comes to an unalienable right, government can't pass a law against it. There's no way. And they don't. They come at us under statutes, and we believe the statutes pertain to us. And that's not true. The war on drugs. Every person that's ever been locked up in the war on drugs has had his liberties taken away from him. And I don't say that being mean. I was locked up 24 months. I had a lot of time, fun. I used to give covert classes in the prison on the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And when I say covert, if you have, in the federal system, if you had five men or more meeting, you was going to go to the hole unless you had special permit. So what I did over that, to control that, I gave it into a chapel. And that way that didn't apply in the chapel. So I would give my classes in the chapel. And every once in a while I had a guard, we call them acts. Every once in a while a guard would stick his head in the door just to, see what's going on. And one night he opened the door. And when they opened the door, I would revert to the preacher. Okay? Well, this night I was doing so good, the guy came inside and sat down, and I had to talk about, I gave a sermon for about 15 minutes before I said, hey, it's break time. So he believed. And what I talked about was, and you guys might know the story, it's in the gospel. Do you recall the story when Jesus went before Pilate? Pilate was a magistrate under Roman law. And the Pharisees, they took Jesus to the magistrate they wanted to take him under religious law. And Pilate kept telling the Pharisees, come forward and make your accusations against Jesus. Pilate wanted the victim, whoever it was, to get on the witness stand under oath to describe his injuries and point out the person that hurt him. Because Roman law, that's where we got a lot of our law, was Roman law. And we did get that part I'm just telling you about, because under Roman law, they had to acquire jurisdiction to punish a citizen of Rome. And we did the same thing in our law. And so when none of the Pharisees went forward and get on a witness stand under oath, Pilate said, I washed my hands. Jesus committed no crime. And so Jesus was able to leave. And so what the people in the war on drugs, when they got prosecuted, they wasn't prosecuted according to the laws of this, to our Declaration of Independence, or for that matter, the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't apply to you and I. It applies to the government. Okay? So when you say they can't do this because it's unconstitutional, what you're telling me is that you're working for the government. That's not the case. There's nothing in the Constitution that applies to you unless you work for the government. Now, what applies to you is the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights are a codification of the common law procedures. And that was done back in the 1850s. And it was done for a good thing, but it turned out bad. But for instance, if someone got charged in New York, say there was 4 murders committed in New York, north, south, east, and west of the state, and each one of them got found guilty. But by the time they went through the appeals process, they might have been all found technicality on procedures. because each sector of the country or the state had different procedures that they went by in court. So their due process was violated, so most of the murderers and so forth got off because of the due process clause. And so there were some lawyers that decided to codify the procedures, your Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and your Eighth Amendment are your criminal procedures, and the Seventh Amendment is your civil procedure. And so they codified those amendments into the Penal Code Book and the Civil Code Book and the Code of Civil Procedures and the Evidence Code and Government Code. And so they started that process. And California did theirs back in 1872. And it was started by a guy that started in New York in 1858, but he came around the horn and did ours in 1872. And so when I started studying law, what I really did was I decoded the code books, and it worked. We you need to take a drink of water. What you need to do. Cottonmouth. All right, thank you. Feel better. When I'm giving a class, I always draw a chart on the board. I don't have a board here, but I can talk to you and visualize it. There's a chain of command in this country, just like there are in the military. And we can go through our legal documents to find out this. For instance, at the very top, your unalienable rights comes from your Creator. Okay, that's what the Declaration of Independence says. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and have certain unalienable rights. Actually, Creator is in there. Hang on a second. There's so much on my mind. I talk so much today. I smoke so many pills. Because I want to get this right, because I'm almost there. Now I got to get my glasses out. God, I hate getting old. You know that? You got to wear glasses, you know. Now it's getting where I got to take a Viagra tablet just to flip the cops off. Okay. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Okay, so we know that it's your Creator that gives you unalienable rights. Government don't give unalienable rights to you. Your Creator does. It can be whoever you want it to be. Okay? If you're an atheist, it can be your parents. But someone has to give you your unalienable rights. And so in my case, I was brought up in the Protestant religion, so I can use the word God, but if it offends you, put your own word in there when I say God. I don't like to offend you, but it's easier for me to say God than it is your Creator every time. And so when I draw the chart, I put a box up there and I put God in. And we know that God created man. And so, and when God created man and gave him unalienable rights, he also said, I'm going to give you the law, which is what you got to do. That's the Ten Commandments, right? Okay, so that's God's law. That's who I obey. You obey the person that creates you. It's like your son and your daughter. You teach them to obey you because you're their Creator. In the short term. And so there's no government yet. See what I mean? So you live by God's law. Whatever his law says, that's what you go by. And that's really the private sector, that's common law. And this country was founded on common law. And we still have common law. We're in common law right now as we're talking right now. You came here on your own free will, and you can get up and leave on your own free will. You have the freedom to do it. In fact, you don't even have any rights in here right now because no one's trying to restrain you of your liberties. That's what the court says. The court says you don't have any rights until they restrain you of your liberties, and that's when they begin. And so if you don't know what your rights are, that's how they beat up on you. Believe me, this is how they beat up on you. One of my best friends, I'm going to his wedding next week, a lawyer, West Point graduate, and law school, of course. And he says, B.E., they don't teach you this in law school. They don't, because the system wouldn't work if they did. They don't want to educate us on our liberties. They want us to be a subject, and that's not true. We're not subject. We're free and independent people. When you get up in the mornings and you go to the bathroom and wash your face, look in the mirror and say, I'm free, and I'm free and independent. And start your day out being that way. I do it every day. I'm free and independent. And but get back to the chart. I get sidetracked. You do that in the mountains up there. You get cabin fever up there, too. Really, you do it in the mountain in the wintertime. You do get cabin fever. Sometimes we get we can't go out for maybe a week, 10 days because of snow. Can't get out. County can't get in, so we can't get out, which is fine. We don't care. See, I got sidetracked again and forgot where I was. Okay, we was on the chart. So there was no government. God created man. Man lives by God's law. Okay? Now, in the case of England and America, when we had the War on Independence, there was the majority of the people that was in America decided to create a government. Not everybody decided they wanted a government. There was a lot of East Smiths back in those days. I didn't want no government. I can live without a government. I actually can. I'll be your good neighbor. I won't hurt anyone. I won't hurt no one's property. That's all you can have government, see. And that's each individual that got, then it's be a perfect place to live. Mind your own business type of thing. And so, but 50% of the American people at the time, plus one person, decided that they wanted to create a government for certain things. Maybe for post roads, maybe for filing patents, you know, people recording of it. It's in Article 2, what they created a government for. And they knew that they didn't have the right to talk about all the people, that they had to live in this democracy. And because you might want to live on your piece of private property, obeying your God law for the rest of your life. That's a possibility. You can be free to do that. I'm more or less completely self-contained up there where I live. I got solar, I got water, I got garden spots, and so I'm almost 100% self-contained. And you can do it, anyone can do it. And anyone can study law, because it's easy, because like I said, it's simple once you know the basics. And the only way you're going to learn the basics is to study the documents, because I was talking to someone earlier today, and I said, you recall the Lady of Liberty? That's what they call the place in the courthouse where there's a woman with blind call her Lady Justice. So what that is telling you is she's got the scales, and it's 50-50. And whoever puts the evidence in the scales and tilts it is the winner. And that's what law is. You use evidence to tilt that scale in your favor. And you do that by learning the law. You don't have to go to the law school to learn the law. Everything you need to know is in this book right here. It has all the American freedom documents in it. And you can get these at a assemblyman's office, wherever you're assemblyman in your area. Just go into his office and say, hey, could I get a copy of the California Constitution? He'll give you a copy of this. And it's a government printing book. Don't cost you nothing. And once you read these, and don't just read it one time and think you're an expert, that's not going to happen. The English language has changed so much since our founding fathers put these documents in writing. We have to really know what definitions are of the English language. The English language really sucks. There are 17 definitions of public in law, 17. And as in Black's Law Dictionary, there are 17 different definitions of public. So when I use the word public, talking to you, your brain's acting like a hard drive, and it's trying to find one out of 17 definitions to put in there, just so to show that you can understand how I'm using that. And so a lot of people right now think that we're in the public. We are, but when I use the word public, I'm talking about the government sector. That's the and there's a private sector, and there's a public sector. Your dollar bills, or your $20 bills, or your $100 bills, on every one of them, on the left-hand side, it says this no legal tender for all debts, public and private. So the government recognizes private and public. We have private property, and we have public property. We have a public arrest, and we also have a private arrest. And so the government and the law recognizes the private and public. It's us that don't really understand it, because actually if a cop, and I wouldn't want you to attempt this, if a cop arrests you for, say, something simple, speeding, and put handcuffs on him, you can actually arrest him for false arrest, because there's no victim. Where does he get his powers? You got to be a victim. In the California Constitution, Article 1, Section 12, talks about bail. And the acquired jurisdiction, when you're arrested, the very beginning is a physical restraint document. The very end of that process is the bail. Okay, once bail has been set, they have acquired jurisdiction over you. All right. Now, how do they create bail? There's a certain way. Remember, government is fiction, so they have to have statute tells them what to do. In the state constitution, Article 1, Section 12, it says in one part that in order for the magistrate to set bail, he has to take in consideration the alleged injury to the victim. Or he has to take in consideration the seriousness of the offense charge. That's what the Constitution says. He has to take in the consideration of the offense charge. Now, what does that mean? So when I was researching that, I came upon Penal Code Section 1275. It gave me the definition. And 1275 says, in considering the seriousness of the offense charge, the magistrate shall take in consideration the alleged injury to the victim. Now, when the law says shall is mandatory, and when the law uses may is permissive. So, in this case, the statutes 1275 said that the magistrate shall take in consideration the alleged injury to the victim. And so, when there's no victim, it can't be bail set, and there's no actually legal document of anyone in the war on drugs that went to jail. If there wasn't a victim involved, they've been put in jail, and it's been a scam. It's been a scam from the day one, because they have no right to tell me, a free and independent person, on my private property, which is a unalienable right, given to you by your creator, to what to put in your body and what not to. It can't work like that. You can't be free and independent and then not think that, right? If you're free and independent, you wouldn't be a subject, right? See, a lot of this works on logic, and so I was fortunate enough to understand. And the reason I learned procedures, it was because the assistant district attorney in Trinity County, Ms. Bivens, she said to me one time privately, and she's a judge in Texas now. She told me in private, she said, the only way you're going to be consistent is to learn procedures. And that night I started learning procedures. And it didn't take me too long, close to 14 years, to learn how to do it. So I did it, and I did it in Reading, I did it in Weaverville, had my TV show in Reading because of it, until finally the city of Reading threatened to shut the station down, public access, if they didn't take me off the air, because I was costing the city of Reading too much money, because no one was trying to take it no more. And the cops was recognizing it. Some cops would walk up to the person and say, if I write you a ticket, are you going to sign it? Or do you know B.E. Smith? Have you watched B.E. Smith show? And they said yes, and he would just shut the ticket book on me, because they can't acquire jurisdiction over it because there's no victim, and they didn't want to put you in jail, try to put fear into you because it costs too much money, and it's all business out there anymore, folks. So, and that's not why we're beating them, because it's all business. We're beating them because that's what the law says. And even when about 4 years after the TV show, I was with a friend. I went to a lawyer's office, and my friend had a business to do with him. And when the lawyer took my friend in, his private investigator came out of his office and seen me and said, "Hi, B.E., how you doing?" And I said, "Hi, how you doing?" I hadn't seen him for a few years. He was a retired Shasta County sheriff, and he was the first guy on backup on my first run in Reading. And we got to talking, and he said, almost all the cops in Reading was watching your show. And I said, yeah, I can see that, because they want to know what their adversary was up to. And he says, oh no, that wasn't the reason he said they wanted to learn their rights too. That's the exact words he said, retired sergeant. So you can't teach the cops something because they're there because they want to help people to begin with. I really believe that. And they just get into a system that I don't think all these cops can really believe what they're doing, or lack they're doing it because of the paycheck. And so I can see where they wanted to learn their rights too. I've had cops ask me, how do you do the procedures when they are talked to by the fish and game cops? And because they want their rights too. And so we need to work with them and teach them what we know, but we have to learn ourselves. And time to do it. I got another few minutes. I hope you enjoy it. But let's get back to that chart real quick. God made man. Okay, man decided to have government, so they had to create a constitution. Now, the Constitution is a common law document, but what comes out of the Constitution is the law of equity. There's no more common law. What comes out of the Constitution is the law of equity, and that means contract law. And so you're in the law of equity when you go work for the government, or when you take a benefit from the government, or when you become a voter, you take a benefit by voting. And that's a fundamental right. Not an inalienable right, it's a fundamental right. Not a civil right, right? In a way it could be civil rights. But, and government is what gives you your civil rights. Government don't give you unalienable rights. And God don't give you civil rights. Government gives you civil rights. That's man's law. You got God's law, and you got man's law. And so when the Constitution was created, it created the three branches of government. You got legislative and the judicial and the executive. And in order to get in to work for the government, you had to take an oath of office and allegiance. You had to owe your allegiance to that state during that contract period. It could be 24 hours a day, for instance, for cops, or it could be for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, whatever you work for the government. But then when you get down to that contract and you move yourself from the public sector and go back into the private sector, and you're impassable again until you have to go back and perform your contract. You become a public subject again. You have to obey the laws. And if you don't obey the laws, then they have the right to punish you. But because of civil rights and the 14th Amendment, they have to give the citizens due process. And due process is you have to be a victim. You got to be a victim. But you have to make them do it, and it's up to you to do it. I can't fight for your liberties. You have to do it yourself. If you get put in jail, and there's no victim involved, do a writ of habeas corpus. And every jail in California has to have a copy of the writ of habeas corpus for you to fill out. It's very simple. You just put your name, rank, service number on it, and tell me you want to see the victim. You want to see the warrant while you're in jail. And they can't produce that warrant. And they might tell you there's a warrant, but they can't produce it. Because you can research how a warrant's created, and they got to be a seal on that warrant. And no judge in the country is going to sign a warrant to put a free man in jail when there's no victim. You won't do it. You can sue the hell out of it. And you might not win in the local level, but you'll win in the appeals court, because the appeals court and the Supreme Court backs this up. Everything I'm telling you today, the appeals court and the Supreme Court backs it up. You just have to do the research. We had some great Supreme Court justices and jurors back in the 1800s, and they wrote some of the best, most beautiful chapters of law that this country's ever seen. And you can, when I had to research it, I had to go to libraries I went down to Berkeley a lot, and they got a great library. Before the internet, that's how you had to do it. And it took hours and hours and hours for you to work this and find them, blah, blah, blah. But on the internet today, it's so easy. It is so easy to do research. And they say the same thing. And this is where I learned my knowledge is from them. I just didn't wake up one morning and said, wow, this is the way it is. No, I learned my knowledge from them. And so when the Constitution was created, it was created to show the government how to do their job, not how you, so the Constitution has nothing to do with you. Only the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights applies to you because you're in common law. Unless you voluntarily go into the public sector to work and you're subject. As a matter of fact, in Penal Code Section 37 in California says that you can't be, a citizen of California can't be charged with treason unless you owe allegiance to the state. So if you don't owe allegiance to the state, they can't charge you with treason. They can't charge a free and independent person with treason. Only a person that works for the state. And that's what turned the light bulb on for my lawyer friend, Tom, was that section right there, because he graduated from West Point. And as soon as I showed him that section, the light bulb came on, and all this other information I've been given to him for the last, well, I met Tom the year before Proposition 215. And so all those years I talked to Tom about his freedom. He never shut me out, never shut me out. But when I showed him that section 37, the light bulb came on. And now he knows he's free and independent now. Now he's getting married. Big pardon. Did you bring in your, did you come in here to shut me down?
No.
Oh, okay. Let's see, what else? I can talk for hours, but trying to think that one of the things that I tell my people when I teach them in classes, learn the definition of the words. Learn them, because if you go on the internet, on the dictionary, there's a 1828 Webster dictionary that you can look up any word and it'll tell you what the definition was in 1828. And that's good to know, because that was only, what, 40 years or so after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So you have a better idea of what that word means 40 years later instead of 250 years later, because they will change the definition and it'll throw you off. Based out. Must be getting this age.
Ask a question.
Beg pardon?
Ask a question.
Magistrate?
He wants to ask a question.
Yeah. Sure.
When it comes to, if somebody's leasing a property as opposed to a private, independently owned land parcel and home and things like that, if you're leasing, let's say, somebody's warehouse, and it's under your name and everything, does the law still apply to you that way? Meaning, as long as it's a victimless crime,
Well, there's a contract
applying the
involved.
state law, you're okay, essentially? You don't sign anything? Say the police were to come and you have, 90 clients
Yeah.
in an indoor situation. Essentially what you're saying is it's a victimless crime because you
It
haven't
is.
hurt anyone. So at that point, are you saying that you would recommend, even on a leased property, to not sign anything, not comply because really you haven't committed
Okay, you don't want to sign, you don't want to ever sign anything, ever, no matter what it is. They can prosecute you, you don't even have to identify yourself. You might not have a name. You have a right to be born in this country and not have a name. There's no law that says that your mom and dad have to give you a name. So, if you don't have a name, you still got rights. You see what I mean? And so, if they want, if they can prosecute you under John Doe, and they can do that by the victim pointing you out and said, that man hurt me. Okay? Now, you don't have to identify yourself. You can go to prison under John Doe. It's been done. Okay? And so, but in your case on the contract, you have to fulfill that contract. But there's no victim still. See? But you don't have an action against whoever whatever your argument is until you've been damaged. Now, if someone cut your plants down, then you have a right to sue the person that cut the plants down, whether it's the government or whether it's a private individual. You see what I mean? Did the government cut your plants down? No. Or someone?
I'm just asking if they were to come in and try to cut them down.
Well, if they cut your plants down, you have a right to sue them, sure. Yeah. Especially if you got a recommendation under medical. That's easy to sue. If you can have a cause of action in a civil court if there's a victim. In order for you to get into civil court, you have to convey jurisdiction to the court. Criminal jurisdiction is acquired by the government, and civil jurisdiction, you convey it to the government. You give them permission to hear your case. Now, if there's no victim on the other side of your case, you can move the court to eliminate that lawsuit because there's no victim. You can't create an action. It has to be a victim for an action to be created. But if you don't waive that right, they just go to the next step. And once they go to the next step, you lose that right. You see? So you have to be prepared to fight the case when it comes down. But they might cut it down. They're cutting plants down up in Shasta County now. And there's no complaint other than the sheriff saying that they're growing too much. But that's not up to him to decide that. That's up to the jury to decide that. It's a defense that we can use. And so I recommended that they run a class action suit against the sheriff for cutting it down. And so when you sue someone in civil court, you become the prosecutor. In criminal court, the government's the prosecutor. In civil court, you become the prosecutor. You're the one that's bringing the action. So you just have to learn the law, find a good lawyer that understands a little bit of this stuff, and then lead them in the right direction. There's a lot of lawyers out there. I know tickle to death when I'm the truth.
Have you heard of the Patient Activity Group?
No.
A patient activity group is a group that is comprised of people who have been arrested by the government. And what you do is you make complaints against your city or state or government, and they have 21 days to respond to your request. And if they don't respond in that 21 days, they're found guilty of whatever it is that you ask them for in damages or whatever. And it's called the Patient Activity Group.
Well, you would have to get a judgment, yeah, and there's procedures for that.
No, they have forms you fill out to make your complaints, and then you send it into your city councilman or your city, and then if they do not respond to that, they're automatically found guilty in that 21 days. If they do respond to that, then they have options to keep it going longer, from what I've understood. I just started working with them.
If I file a suit against my county, they are under a certain time limit to respond to it. And if they don't respond to it, then I would have to come on my own and file paper in court to get a judgment. And then there's procedures to get that.
Yeah,
judgment.
they have forms on the patient activity group
Right.
website.
And so,
You
but
fill
most of the
out.
time when you sue the county, the insurance companies pay it anyway. So, and they're gonna fight it tooth and nail because they don't want to see the system change.
Right.
Just like the government don't want the system to change. Okay, I thank you very much. Maybe next year I'll be here with more news. I'm still fighting them. I don't know why I'm gonna do that. I got one case going now, fighting over private property. I'm gonna try to get the procedures down to get private people off of our tax rolls. We shouldn't be paying property taxes. It's an unalienable right. Okay, they can charge some other tax, and if we want to choose to pay that tax, you're not free, remember this, you're not free unless you have a choice. If you got a choice, then you're free, because you can choose which choice you're going to decide. And so, property taxes doesn't give you a choice. Gasoline taxes gives you a choice. If I want to drive on a highway and I want good highways, then I have to pay a sales tax so that the state has the money to maintain the roads. But if I live in the private sector and I don't work for the government, then they have no right to charge me or make me pay income taxes, because I'm not one of their subjects. Only subjects are required to pay taxes. That's the law. If you are required to pay income taxes, I suggest that you do them. But if you're not required to pay them, then I wouldn't suggest you do it. Private is private. Private is none of your business. I'm the king of my castle. I don't have to keep this government going. I want to be a monk. I want to live my life on my 60 acres or whatever. Pursuit of happiness. We have all these liberties, but we have to claim them. The government's not going to give them to you. They can't. They're fiction. You see, and it's been the same since 1776. I think personally, and this is my own belief, the reason that this country has went to hell was because of the morals. It really doesn't matter if we lose in God or whatever, we lost our morals. You know, we make money on our neighbors. We put them in jail for not a victim, when there's no victim. How can you put your neighbor in jail when there's no victim? What kind of person are you? If that's the way that our government is, I don't want no government. We created a government, and we created a good government. But we let them go bad. We didn't. Benjamin Franklin, a lady asked him when they had the Constitutional Convention, she said, what type of government did you give us? And he said, we gave you a republic, madam, if you can keep it. And so they knew that when they gave us the republic, it was up to every generation to keep that republic going the way that they founded it. And we did, we lost it. It's almost gone. It's almost gone. There's not going to be any more revolutions. People say revolution, it's time for a revolution. We had a revolution back in 1776. Anything that goes on after a revolution formed for government is called a civil war. So look for a civil war. Don't be looking for a revolution. That's just the way it is. Be prepared. Educate yourself the best. Be with people of like thank him. And just try to educate people on what their liberties are. And don't spend too much time on stupid people. There's 350 American people in this country, approximately. And so when you start talking about liberties and some guy says, well, I let someone else do it. Well, don't spend too much time on him. You don't need to know. Go to someone that's going to think like you. And everyone thought the same back in 1776. They wanted to be free and they wanted to be independent. And we lost that today in this country, I'm sad to say. And I don't vote. And the reason I don't vote is because I don't believe in the system. And if I voted, I would become a citizen of either state government or federal government, because you're not a citizen when you're born. You're born free and independent. A citizen belongs to something. That's what the definition says. You belong to something. So when you're born in this country, you're born free and independent, and you're not a citizen. You become a citizen when you do certain things. Number one, if you register to vote, you become a citizen. Why do you become a citizen? Because the law says only citizens can vote. Right? Citizens of what? Citizens of the government. So it's up to the government and the citizens to keep the government going. It's not up to me to keep it going if I choose not to, because they can't pass a law that says that. I can be in my own little world. I can be in my castle and surrounded by a fence. And the only way the government can come in is through a warrant. See, I got protection. I got the Bill of Rights. And so how is a warrant created? This is when you jump into the statutes and find out how the warrants are, how they're created. And you'll find out if there's no victim, they can't do nothing to you. If they do the writ of habeas corpus. The writ of habeas corpus, Blackstone said it was the great writ of liberty. And so that's been around since 1215, and anyone can do a writ. You can do it orally, or you can do it on paper. I would do it orally. I suggest that you learn, do the paper one. And all you're doing is asking for due process. And due process is, if you are restrained of your liberty, you have the right to see your future. I know some of the older folks here, when you were younger, you can remember the phrase, I have a right to face my accuser. Well, that accuser is your enemy, is your victim, I'm sorry. He's the victim. And so you have the right to see who he is, who's making a complaint against you, who's going to have the right to take your freedom away and throw you in jail. So I was just dedicated, and I thank God that I was able to, that I don't have any fear no more of government. I really don't. I know enough law to keep out of trouble. That's why I'm not afraid, and I never have been afraid to hide my face when I go in medicine for myself. I started that in 1978, and the only time I ever got off was when I voluntarily did the test case on the federal level, and they gave me no defense whatsoever, railroaded me. But the order came from Washington to get me found guilty. The feds needed that thumb on the state to make this war on drugs pay off. The prison industry is the third fastest growing industry in America, in a free country. There's no logic behind that, folks. There's no logic behind that. How in the hell how can a free country imprison more than any other country in the world? It makes me ashamed of how we are laughed at by other countries. But it's our fault. We blame the government. It's not the government's fault. We can control them. We got the law to do it. I think the law is the most beautiful thing that's ever been written. But I understand that. And I'm not a bragging about it, folks. It's been on a hard road. It's been hard. And I hope that this country's turned around. Yes, sir.
She has a question.
Yes, ma'am.